Chef Chris Olin with Chef Out of Water. In this third part of our three-part series of making sourdough, guess what? It's time to actually make some bread. All right, so we had our overnight leaven from the previous episode. All right, it's been sitting overnight. It's bubbling up. We haven't added any additional yeast to it. It was naturally leavened using the yeast from the air in our sourdough starter that we made about a week ago. Okay, so this is ready to go. All right, so we have done our overnight leaven and it's bubbling away. All right. To this, here's what we're going to do. We're going to add an additional cup of our flour into a separate bowl. All right? Into that bowl, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And we're going to add 4 teaspoons of salt. I'm using a flake Pacific sea salt for this one. Okay? We're going to just mix that up a little bit here into the 1 cup of flour. All right, there we go. Mix it up a little bit. Now it's all mixed up. We're going to put it right into our leavened dough. Kind of mix it up. I'm using a little bowl spatula here. Okay, that really helps get it all off the inside of the bowl. All right, now what we want to do now is sprinkle again a little bit more flour on the surface. All right, we're going to take and go ahead and pour this out right onto the surface of your countertop. Okay, go ahead and set that aside. Now, we are not going to use any mechanical devices. If you happen to have a KitchenAid or stand mixer, you know what, go for it. It's all good. I wanted to show everyone how to do this by hand. So here we go. We're going to start to kind of just work the dough. We're going to create what is considered a gluten strand. That's what makes bread glutinous, so that it doesn't just fall apart. It has a bit of texture, and also it will rise. So we want to make sure that we fully incorporate everything into this, while at the same time we are getting it all rolled into a nice ball. A little bit more flour, okay? And try to keep my hands from sticking. Alrighty, as we develop this dough ball, okay? Get all the flour off the surface. I'm just going to keep working it back and forth. We're going to create a gluten strand as well as a bit of elasticity to this dough. Now, the idea with the overnight leaven, not using any active dry yeast, but sourdough starter, which has the natural yeast in it, is this will help us develop better texture. It is going to help us develop more flavor. The dough will actually be more sour due to that. So keep just working away. This is going to take probably anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. It's good exercise. All right, so similar to our pizza dough that we made a couple of episodes ago. It's very exciting. We've been waiting over a week now to actually be able to make bread from our starter. So I've been looking forward to this. I hope that all of you have as well. And if you haven't made a sourdough starter yet, I invite you to revisit the sourdough episode part 1 of 3. All right, so this is the third part. This are about 5 minutes now, and we're getting really close. It's starting to come together, it's starting to get smooth and elastic, but it's not quite bouncing back yet. So just kind of keep flouring the surface as you need to keep the dough from sticking to your hands and from sticking to the countertop. We're going to go about 1 more minute, and then the dough will be ready to do the initial proof. Okay, we're almost there. Now, as you likely noticed, I added both sugar and yeast to the situation. I did that because I wanted to go ahead and be able to make this bread today. It will cause it to proof faster, and I assume we spent, we had the whole development of flavor and character overnight by doing a leaven without yeast, and this is going to give it way more character and texture. All right, so now here's where we're at. We got a dough ball, it bounces back. This guy is ready to go. Go ahead, take your bowl here, dust it with a little bit of flour, okay? Make sure that you got a little bit of flour over the whole thing, not a ton, just enough to keep it from sticking. Okay, we're gonna put it into a bowl. We're gonna cover this with plastic wrap. You can certainly cover it with a towel, that would be fine. All right, and we're gonna set this in kind of a warm spot in our kitchen and let it begin to proof. What's gonna happen is this should double in size, and then we're ready to cut it into our portions and do the next step. Okay, it's been about an hour. Our dough has nearly doubled in size. All right, so here's where we're at. I'm gonna lightly dust the countertop. I'm gonna roll the dough out onto the counter. Okay, this might be a good point to use if you have a little rubber spatula like this, or even just a rubber spatula. Might be a good way to get the dough out of the bowl. All right, so we're gonna just lightly kind of work this. Don't put a ton of pressure into it. You don't want to bust all of the air bubbles out of it. But what we're going to do now is kind of bring it to a spot where we can effectively portion the dough. All right, so that's the next step, portioning the dough. We're going to break this into about 3 approximately equal parts. All right, and there we go. I think they weigh about the same. All right, go ahead and roll these into small portion dough balls. All right, so you just want to kind of pull it and stretch it, pull it and stretch it. All right, little dough balls like this. If you happen to have a scale, that's totally fine. If you want to weigh them out so they're all exactly the same, that is your prerogative. If you don't, we're just going to guess. Okay, now let's get some flour out of the way. You're going to need to have somewhat of a clean surface. We're going to use the friction of our countertop to help us make nice and smooth dough balls just like that. All right, so here we go. Got 1, 2, here's 1, here's 2. Okay, roll it nice and smooth. Okay, we're also during this process redistributing the gluten, all right, in the bread. And there's 1, 2, and 3. All right, now go ahead again. I know, a little bit of flour. Okay, we're going to line these kind of up in a nice neat row. We're going to sprinkle them with a little bit more flour over the top. Okay, at this point you can either use a towel, something like that. I'm just going to use plastic wrap again. We're going to cover these up. We don't want them to dry out. This will help, plastic wrap or your towel will help kind of keep them warm. It's going to keep the heat in, all right? And then we're going to just let them rest for about 30 minutes. It's been about 30 minutes, and now Our dough again has nearly doubled in size. This is the point where we're going to go ahead and shape it into its final shape. Okay, so for this purpose, I thought we might just do 3 different ones. All right, so we got our sheet pans over here. We're going to give them a quick little spray, keep the dough from sticking. We're gonna, there we go, just like that. We'll kind of split these up based on the kind of size and how long they might take. And here we go. So the first one, we're gonna simply, this is gonna be round, just like that. So we're gonna again create a round dough ball. By doing this, we're redistributing the gluten. It's gonna help this ultimately rise a little better. Okay, so this is our round sourdough boule. All right. There is that. Okay, onto the sheet pan. Okay, we'll put that on about half of one of these guys. All right, the next one, okay, shake a little flour off. We're gonna go ahead, this is gonna be a bit of a demi baguette, all right? So, fold it through, just like that. Keep bringing it in the middle. Okay, just like this. And then we have our little loaf. We're going to give it a little right on the end there, using your palms like that. Use the friction to your advantage, all right? So don't have a ton of flour on the surface at this point. You want to use the friction. Okay, there we go. There's our demi baguette. We're going to put that one here. Okay, next, let's do a baguette. Same process. We're going to keep rolling it out even further. All right, push it down, roll it, push it down, just like that. The air, you can feel the air is really building in here. All right, now we're just going to keep, remember, friction is our friend in this case. We're going to just keep rolling it out, making it a little longer and longer, using the palms of your hands rather, okay, all the way to the end. Okay, and I'm already thinking about some brie right about now. Brie, maybe a little red wine, something like that, and we can enjoy our baguette. All right, this is going to go on the other pan. It's going to be about, I'm going to have to kind of crisscross it over a little bit, a little diagonally so it fits. Typically in our restaurant we would use large pans, but I want you to be able to do this at home, and I'm guessing that your oven likely doesn't fit full-size sheet pans. All right, so we're going to let that sit for about 15 minutes, okay? And then we're going to score the bread. All right, so our bread is rising like crazy. At this point, we're going to score the bread, all right? You can use your whatever shapes or lines you like. This is going to allow some of the air to escape as it's baking. It's also going to be make it a little bit lighter and ultimately airier. All right, we're just going to, this one, we're just going to do like that. So if you have a sharp knife, this one we're going to go down the middle a little bit, and then maybe a couple 3 there. Same thing here, we're going to go all the way down the middle of this baguette. Same deal. We're going to make some slices. You want to just drag the knife through, don't put a lot of pressure in there, all right? So at this point, next thing we're going to do, flick on the oven. Let's let it warm up, and we will be back with you to ultimately bake the bread here in about 15 minutes. All right, check this out. So it's just been about 15 minutes. We scored the bread. It's proofed up now. My oven is on 400 degrees. We're going to put this in the oven right now. Oh yeah, look at that. And they look awesome. 400 degrees, close the oven, and don't touch it for about 10 minutes. Just let it bake. Okay, bread's been in the oven for about 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and have a peek, flip it around in your oven. Look at that, man, that looks pretty dang good. I'm going to flip it around the oven, and we're going to close the door back up for 5 more minutes. Oh man, all right. was the last 5 minutes. Really kind of sealed the deal here. We got this lovely little baguette, little demi loaf of bread, or demi baguette, whatever you want to call it, a boulet. Make what you want. Grab some cheese, make a ham sandwich, little tuna melt, and I hope you have enjoyed this episode of making sourdough bread at home during a global pandemic.